Welcome to MDL, the show where we talk to modern day legends. Today we have Hafiz Osairam Mohsin. He also gave plenty of Jumu'ah lectures and he led us in Taraweeh. How you doing, bro?
Alhamdulillah. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Omar?
I'm doing great. So I just want to begin with this. When did you actually start, memorizing Quran? Like, when did you know that, okay, I'm going to be a scholar?
I wouldn't say the word scholar. If you want to say Hafiz, maybe that's okay. But I think ever since I was a young age, becoming a Hafiz is something that I always wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, the other day, my mom had like a binder where she had collected our just like certificates or achievements, they give at school. Like a little binder like through all of our school years. And I found one page, it was from kindergarten actually. And it was asking about your life goals. It was just a small activity saying, what you wanted to become. And I think at least 3 of the answers I gave on that sheet, and there was like 10 questions, all of them said like Hafiz. Yeah. Or Imam, something along those lines. I always wanted to become a Hafiz. I think I even remember when I was like really young, I would stand on my dresser and like try to do an Abdul Basit imitation. It was terrible. But I always like wanting to become a Hafiz is something that I always had in my heart. It's something I always wanted to do. Alhamdulillah, Allah SWT, He made it easy for me and allowed me to reach that stage. But I think that's an important lesson, that as long as you have the intention, and even if you put a little bit of effort, then Allah SWT will, if you're sincere, which I hope I was, Allah SWT, He will take your efforts and He can magnify them, and inshaAllah He'll allow you to reach a goal even if it seems out of reach.
MashaAllah. That's something else. This is not an easy task. I don't know why people, specifically when you've Hafiz, people are like saying, oh, anyone can do it. But like, they don't understand, this is not an easy task. We're not talking about memorizing 500 pages, and knowing the meaning, and knowing tafsir, and knowing what's it called? How to read it properly. Why do it, man? Why? Why attempt something so amazing?
I think the first thing is Allah SWT, He says in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ, and He also says فَإِنَّمَا يَسَّرْنَاهُ بِلِسَانِكَ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَذَكَّرُونَ. I was listening to a shaykh who mentioned that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling you that I have made the Quran easy is the only motivation that a person has, that should be enough.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself has told us that He has made the Quran easy, He has made the Quran easy to memorize, easy to understand, easy to implement. He has made it easy to take knowledge from. All of these meanings can be taken from this ayah when Allah says that we have made the Quran easy. Then honestly, that's the only motivation that a person really needs.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, if you just look at some of the ahadith that mention the blessings that a person will get if he memorizes the Quran, or if he's someone who knows the Quran, he has knowledge of the Quran, then those hadith are also motivation for us, and that your parents will be honored on the Day of Judgment, you will be honored on the Day of Judgment, and your rank will be to the last ayah that you recite. So that's also another motivation, and we ask Allah SWT that He allows us to be of those people. And I think that, I guess there would be 2 points. The first one is that it seems like a hard task, but you see many people do it. You see people who, they may struggle in many other things, but they're able to complete the Quran. Mm-hmm. You see children doing it, you see people who are in their old age doing it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it may seem as a daunting task on face value, but Allah SWT is the one who said it, that He's made it easy, and the Quran is easy. Even if you struggle in the beginning, Allah said it's easy, so it's easy. And as long as a person has the intention, like I mentioned, and he tries even a little bit of effort, that effort is going to go a long way. So regardless of, how foreign a person may be to the Arabic language, or how foreign a person may be, or how far away they may be from the Quran, they can come back to it any single day, and they can start, on their journey. And it may seem like it's going to take you 30, 40 years, even if it takes you that long. I mean, as long as you reach your goal, it doesn't really matter how you got there, as long as you got there, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, as long as you're taking the halal means and everything. But the point being that Allah SWT is the one who told you that He made the Quran easy, and that, that's enough. And the second thing I would say is, I feel that a lot of times Muslims, they kind of have like this fear, anxiety approaching the Quran. Mm-hmm. They think that, if I approach the Quran and I try to recite, my tajweed isn't going to be perfect, or I'm going to make mistakes, or my voice isn't going to be beautiful. And for the first thing I'll say is obviously that Allah SWT is the one who told you He'll make it easy. And secondly, if you think about like your favorite reciter, your favorite qari, at one point that favorite qari, that favorite reciter couldn't recite the Quran. And at one point that person didn't know tajweed, and at one point he also didn't know, the rules of recitation, and it was also difficult for him. But he or she, when they put in the effort, Allah SWT made it easy, like I said. So I think we need to kind of get out of this mindset of, if I approach the Quran, we're kind of scared to.
Yeah.
Rather, the Quran isn't only for the people that have memorized it, and it's not only for the scholars. The Quran is for everyone. It's for the one who commits major sins to come back and repent. It's for the one who's misguided to come and be guided. And the Quran, Allah SWT, it's for everyone and touches every heart. So we shouldn't be afraid to approach it. And when we do approach it, we should, as long as we have the intention and we're sincere, then inshallah, it's possible for anyone.
I mean, honestly, like what you said is honestly true. Like we all started as a baby, we all started learning how to walk and talk and everything. So what makes people special than other people don't? Definitely people needs to know that if anyone can do it, they just have to have the dedication to do it.
Yeah.
I also have another question. How much was your family an influence during memorizing the Quran?
I think my family was definitely a big influence. My dad, alhamdulillah, he was someone who had memorized the Quran, and my older brother as well, he finished memorizing the Quran. And I think back home, and my family's originally from Pakistan, it's very common that the kids there, they memorize the Quran. And it's something that, in some families, it's something they have to do. Like, it's not even an option, you do it.
Mm-hmm.
So many of my cousins, they also had memorized the Quran. So I think in that aspect, it was like a motivation that, your brother has done it and your cousins have done it, you should probably do it too. Second thing is my dad, he was also a very big motivation. I remember at one point it was difficult to me because I didn't really have a teacher or anyone to memorize the Quran with.
Mm-hmm.
And so one day he told me that, just start memorizing and then you can recite to me and then inshallah ta'ala something will happen. And I think I started reciting and I memorized probably the first 4 or 5 pages of Al-Baqarah. And then after that, Sheikh Omar, he had started his classes and I started to join and then I learned from him. And my mother, she was also a very big help. I remember that anytime, even if she was busy, if I ever asked her, can you listen to my old review or can you listen to my notes, she would stop what she was doing and she would listen. So definitely having family is I think one of the most important aspects in terms of trying to memorize the Quran. And I think that's actually really important. Obviously I can't speak as one because I'm not a parent or anything, but I think like seeing the way my parents helped me, a lot of times parents may think that they can just put their child in like a Quran school or something and they're going to become a Hafiz, but most of the stuff like the memorizing and the reviewing, all of that's going to happen at home. And even like in the Quran school I went to, like, mashallah, Sheikh Omar, I honestly couldn't have imagined a better teacher for myself. It's not that he listened to every single student. You had so many students in the class and they had all different levels. So the Sheikh is not going to sit there and focus on your student one-on-one.
Yeah, I think maximum he was able to do was like three students at a time.
Yeah, that's impressive too. Yeah. Listen to 3 students, but I mean,
just like left one on the left, one on the right, in the front. It's like okay, I can listen to everything. It's like, what?
But even then, that's only one part, right? He's listening to the review or he's listening to the new. But when it comes to your revision and it comes to like having a 30-minute recitation where you're reciting, obviously he can't do that to every student. So that comes a lot on the parents. If it's their wish that the children becomes a Hafiz, then they also have to make sure that they're giving the time that's needed for that to happen. And I think with that, it's possible, but family definitely helps. And if you're the first person in your family, trying to become a Hafiz, then even then, as I said, Allah said it's easy. So inshallah, if you make the intention, it'll happen.
Definitely sounds like how you're explaining is that like almost the home is the school, and then when you're at school, it's more like a certification that okay, you memorize this, you can move on.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, you could describe it like that. I mean, I think the home is that's where most of the memorization and reviewing is gonna happen. And then when you go to, I think it also depends on what hifdh school you're in. Because I know like overseas, even in the States, there's some schools are made for hifdh, so everything happens at the school.
Yeah.
But I would say for most masajid, a lot of students like after school, it's like a hifdh program that's not even every single day a week. It's 3 days or 4 days or even 1 day.
Yeah.
So in those scenarios, and definitely, most of it's gonna happen at home.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there like so I remember when Sheikh started it.
Yeah.
At first, it was just one. It was Ahmed and Omar who actually gave him the idea.
Yeah.
And then then people started picking up. It's like, oh, Omar Beck started doing it. Then Luqman and Adid, everything. Everyone started getting the competition. And do you think that helped, like supercharge your path?
I would say that was definitely a big motivation. Having someone that you can compete with, having peers that you're memorizing with, and I think this goes not even memorizing the Quran, but this goes in anything. If you have strong peers around you, then it's going to make you want to do it more, and it's going to motivate you as well. Yeah, so I mean, if Ahmed Zinwar, you mentioned, mashallah, I remember he for something that I envied about him was that his memory, mashallah, was really good.
Yeah.
So he was able to memorize a lot in a very short period of time. And that's something that really pushed me. I was like, I want to get to a level, inshallah, where I can, do a few pages a day or something like that.
Yeah.
And, Luqman, mashallah, Adil, Mu'adham, Mu'adh, Umar Bek, all of them, they were all a good peer group to be around. And having them around me made me want to memorize even more and motivated me more. I think that many of them, I mean, most, if not all of them, they can all recite better than me, and their tajweed is better than mine. But that still motivates me to do better. And again, that's really important. If you have a strong peer group, try not to do it alone. If you can have a friend that you start with or something like that, it'll definitely help.
I'm 100% sure that I remember specifically in school, you guys would keep me like, oh, I memorized or I memorized 3 pages. Like, okay, I'm gonna memorize 6 pages or stuff like that. I remember that like in detail how competitive you guys were, and like what happened to that? Did you ever feel that like you were behind, like you were far behind, like there's no way I can keep up? Did you ever feel like I'm going to just go give up?
No, I don't think we ever had a competition of keeping up. I think it was more just the end goal was in mind, where you want to become a hafiz. And that's really what the mindset was. I don't think it was like unhealthy competition to the point where, oh, I can't keep up, so I'm going to give up. I don't think it was ever like that. And I don't think that, I never felt that way, that, I'm trying to keep up. It was more just we all have the same goal, and you help each other when you can, and you put in the effort. That was it. I think when it comes to the Quran, it's not really about how quickly you want to memorize it. It's just enjoy the journey, because that's one thing that I wish I enjoyed more, was when you finish the Quran, you don't have you don't wake up, oh, what ayah do I have to memorize today, or what ayah am I gonna come across that I haven't really heard or thought about before. There's so many times where you're memorizing, and you come across an ayah like, whoa, I didn't even know there was an ayah like that in the Quran. Or you remember, oh wow, I've heard Shaykh recite this ayah so many times, I didn't even know it was in this surah, or something like that. For example, Subhanalladhi sakhkhara lana hadha ma kunna lahu muqrinin wa inna ila rabbina lamunqalibun. This is an ayah we recite whenever we're in the car, and many of us may not even know this is an ayah from the Quran. So like small things like that, when you wake up and you find, oh wow, this is an ayah in the Quran, or some ayah you just love the way it flows, like that's not something you can experience once you're done memorizing. So memorizing within itself is an experience, and that it takes a journey. And right now I have some of my friends, mashallah, they're memorizing the Quran too, and I envy them for that reason, because they still get to wake up every day, and they get to come across ayat that they haven't came across before. Whereas for me, that I guess for me that enjoyment, I can experience a different type of enjoyment, but that specific enjoyment I can't experience anymore.
Definitely seems like you took the Quran as like a positive attitude, and more not like a challenge. You took it more like an opportunity than a challenge. Or
I mean, I wouldn't say the goal should never be that. Obviously the goal is to memorize the Quran, but that's a tool. The goal is obviously to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to be sincere. But it's not, I wouldn't say it's like, oh, like memorizing and once I achieve it, that's it. No, I don't think that's the right mindset. I think the mindset should be that you're doing it to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you do what you can, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy. But it's not like, oh, something I have to finish, and once I get it done, okay, I'm happy. That's not,
So it's more like like you want to do it. It's not because like, oh, I want to do it because of this reward and this reward. You want to do it because it's actually interested you, which is something. No,
I definitely think that the reward is a big motivation. That's a big factor.
Okay.
But it's both. I mean, it's the Quran. You can't really compare it to any other field.
Obviously.
And it's the best field that a person can involve himself in. I wouldn't even say I'm involved in the field. I've just done the bare minimum that anyone that wants to, be any learned person in the religion has to do, which is memorize the Quran. So in terms of the field, I'm nobody, but I think that memorizing the Quran is something that it's a way that gets you closer to Allah, obviously, if you use it the right way. And
so like, how did you balance your college education and your Islamic education? What was your lifestyle like?
There's actually an interesting point I heard the other day, and one of the shaykh, he mentioned that sometimes people, they complain they don't have time when it comes to memorizing the Quran. And I wish I had honestly heard this point when I was memorizing, or before I started memorizing. And he said that if Allah SWT had given an excuse to anyone for not giving the Quran time, it would have been 3 categories of people. And the first category would be someone who is sick, or someone who's traveling seeking the bounties of Allah, or someone who's doing jihad fi sabilillah. And he said especially the last one, someone who's fighting in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obviously, which nowadays is not practical or anything, but obviously back then that was someone who's very, very busy. And even then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them فَقْرَأُوا مَا تَيَسَّرَ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ, that read that which is easy for me from the Quran. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentioned the reason, but he didn't give them an excuse. He said still read what you can from the Quran.
Okay.
So I think many times people, they think, oh, I can't make time for the Quran, but they don't realize that if you make time for the Quran, then the other things that you're worrying about, not having enough time, Allah SWT will bless your time and He'll give you barakah. And I never felt, honestly, because I was still in high school at that time, I never felt that, remember, making time for the Quran hindered my studies. If anything, it helped me in my studies, and if anything, I felt like I had more times to do other things that I wanted to do along with memorizing the Quran. And it's not like I was spending 4 or 5 hours every single day. It took me like over a period of 5 years to memorize the Quran, which is not normal. I think the average is like 3 years. Some people, they even do it in a year. Some people, a year and a half. It just depends. But again, I guess it's more about the end goal and enjoying the journey than actually just trying to get it over with,
Yeah. So like what like stuck out to me was that like you were saying that there's some people that took 1 year, some people that took 2 or 3 or 5, but that's like I just wanted your confirmation that that's not really important how long it takes you, because like even like the Sahabas, what they used to do, they spend like years, their whole life just trying to memorize, apply, understand, so like.
I think that goes back to the point exactly like you said, that it's not about how long it takes, it's more about applying what you're learning, and it's about perfecting the memorization. That's definitely true. I think that everyone has their own way of like every teacher has a different way they teach. So when I said like I wasn't spending 5 hours 6 hours a day, I think what I meant by that was basically that my schedule is very different than maybe someone else was memorizing the Quran, because I was trying to do it while also in high school. So I wasn't really able to I would say devote like I think like some madrasas they have where that's all you're doing, and some kids are homeschooled, and like part of it is that they're memorizing the Quran. So for me, I kind of regret it, but I think one thing was that I wasn't very consistent. So like 1 week maybe I'll memorize a page every single day, or 1 week I'd memorize like some pages in 1 day and I wouldn't memorize anything the rest of the week, or a few months I would be very consistent, then 1 month I wouldn't really memorize anything. So it was very inconsistent, but again, like I said, as long as you're trying and you're putting the effort, then inshallah at the end it will become very easy. I remember when I first started Baqarah, I was on Quran Explorer, and then I think I was memorizing like ayat 15 or something, and I scrolled down, I was like, man, I can't wait till I'm like at ayat 75 or something. And then I was just like a motivation, and alhamdulillah, when I finished, I was like, I remember that day, I was like, subhanallah, like that ayat 75 seemed so far off, but after the time you look at it, it felt like the time flew by. So
like I know you kind of touched on this, but like I kind of wanted to go in detail, like how would you say like you organized your time specifically for this, or was it kind of like spontaneous?
I think it could involve a little bit of both. So the sheikh, he had 3 classes in a week. He had on Tuesdays, Fridays and Saturdays, and they were 2 hours. So you can tell from that a lot of it's going to be at home. So most in those classes, when you would normally go and recite your new or what you have memorized, and then you would recite your review to one of the students. I personally, I tried, anytime I had memorized something, I would recite to Sheikh that day at Isha. That's what he had told us. He said if you had memorized anything, then don't wait. Don't wait for the class. You can come to me after Isha and recite. So I try to use as much of that as I possibly could. And one thing that I would say is the most beneficial thing you can do is memorize after Fajr. So wake up for Fajr, and then right after that memorize, because that time you'll be able to memorize more and get more in than at any other time during the day. So that's what I would try to do. I would try to wake up and memorize before going to school, and then that way I had already gotten it done, and the rest of the day I could I felt at ease that I've done the most important task of the day. Alhamdulillah, now it's just after the rest of the tasks that I have to do. So in terms of like an actual schedule, how much I memorize every single day, my goal in the beginning was to do half a page, and then after that, alhamdulillah, eventually once you start memorizing, it becomes easier, and then I eventually moved on to a page. And then towards the ending, alhamdulillah, Allah SWT, He made it easy for me to be able to do more than that. So I think it's just consistency. If someone ever asks me advice on how to memorize the Quran, I tell them that it's always better for you to do a line every single day than to do one page a week. Like 1 page in 1 day and only memorize that day in the entire week. So the point is consistency, because if you're doing a line every single day, then eventually, even within a month, you'll be able to start doing half a page, and then eventually you'll be starting doing a page, and then 2 pages, and then after that it'll just become very easy. So in the beginning it's going to be slow, but the point is just to be consistent. If you're consistent even for a month or 2 months, or even for some people maybe a few weeks, then after that it's just you'll get the ball rolling, and then it'll become easy from there.
Something I noticed that from what you said, schedule, was that like the way you studied wasn't more like, I'm going to spend an hour. No, you were like, I'm going to memorize this half page no matter how long I sit, right?
Yeah, that's a good point too. For me, I never, at least at that time, alhamdulillah, when you're in high school, you're not normally as busy as, you would be if you're in college or if you're working. And at that time, I guess for me, if it took me like 30 minutes or an hour, it didn't make that much of a difference to me.
Yeah.
Some people, they don't have the time. Some people, they only have like, okay, I have an hour and I'm gonna do what I can in an hour. I have 30 minutes, I'm gonna do what I can in 30 minutes, and that's fine too. That's I think either way is possible. Either you have a goal of how much you're gonna memorize, or you have a goal of how much time you're gonna spend memorizing. Either way is fine as long as you're consistent. Even if you're doing 30 minutes every single day, eventually in those 30 minutes you can memorize. A time will come where you'll be able to memorize a page or 2 pages in 30 minutes if you keep it up. So it becomes easier with time, definitely, as Allah said, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ, that we've made the Quran easy. So
I'm gonna give you this opportunity to say like the final message to all our viewers. Any advice, anything you want to say before we close off?
What I will say is, memorizing the Quran is something that I think every Muslim should have a part in. And even if right now you don't really feel like you want to memorize the whole Quran, just make the intention. Because we know that if you make the intention and you're sincere in your intention, Allah SWT will help you. So just make the intention, even if you feel like it's impossible, just make the intention that I want to memorize the Quran, and inshallah it'll become easy for you. The second thing I would say is, I think if you ask any Hafiz or anyone that's involved in, I guess, any relation to the Quran or anything, is the biggest problem is normally sincerity, where you're trying to be sincere and you're trying to make sure that you're doing it for Allah. And so I would say that, as we know that there's two sides of a bird. You either have the fear and the hope. So we know that there's a lot of motivation that we can look from the Quran and the Sunnah to find, that will help us memorize the Quran. But at the same time, there's also the punishments for those people who memorize and they don't implement. And obviously most of us, we feel that we're from that category. So it's good to have a balance and to remind yourself that even if you reach that goal, at the same time, your goal hasn't ended. You still have to focus on implementing. You have to focus on purifying your intentions. And I think this goes for any Hafiz that you ask, or anyone that's involved in the Quran. This is probably the biggest struggle they'll tell you. It's not that they couldn't memorize, it's not that they couldn't review, it's just that they couldn't. It's just difficult, trying to keep that sincerity. So that's advice I would give, is just be sincere and make the intention. Even if you right now you're like, I don't even memorize the Quran, just make the intention. Just be sincere in your intention. Inshallah, Allah SWT will make it easy for you.
Well, thanks, man. That was a beautiful message. Thank you for coming by. This was amazing. This was honestly a really great video, alhamdulillah, that we had an interview. Inshallah, you keep on reviewing. Inshallah, you keep on, influencing other people and everything.
Jazakallah khair. I appreciate you for having me, inshallah. Inshallah, next time I can be in your seat and we can be talking about your journey, inshallah.
Inshallah.